drift bomb. We are celebrating 20 years of conference championships, NAIA World Series appearances, Atlantic Regional Championships, Division II World Series appearances, and excellence in the classroom. That is right. It is the 20th anniversary of Griffins baseball. We welcome you to the 2023 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. I'm Dan Flickinger with the Westmoreland Sports Network, and to my right, of course, is the head coach, the only one in the history. He built it from the ground up. Griffins baseball, Mark Marizaldi. And Maz, before we get into so many things here, talking about last season and this season and some of the teams that you will be recognizing throughout the 2023 season that meant so much to this baseball program. I know we've talked about this a number of times, but it's pretty wild to think back to where this program was when you started it. Joanne Boyle was the president here. There was no field for you guys. You had to go off campus. And to think of how beautiful now the ballpark is and what you guys have accomplished, not only on the field, but certainly off the field, and the guys that continue those accomplishments on and off the field. It's pretty incredible to think back.
It is. I feel very lucky and very blessed to be here for 20 years and to be able to look back and just be so proud of everything that our players have accomplished. I'm lucky to have witnessed all those things that you mentioned, the academic success, the championships. It's really hard. We're celebrating this 20th season here, and to try to paint that picture to the current players and give them an idea of where this came from. You mentioned we have a beautiful ballpark that we're able to step on the field every day. And I show some pictures every now and then of what it used to look like and explain to them that we used to have to drive a half an hour to play home games. But, yeah, we're really excited to welcome back a lot of our alumni to the ballpark this spring. But it truly is hard to believe that we put 20 years into this, and I hope I can be here for another 20 after this.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I know that, you know, it's not just a 20th year for you and that's it. You're doing some nice things throughout the season to recognize the teams that helped build this program, right?
Yeah, we're gonna. It's really neat when you look at the, I guess, 19-year history to this point. We've been able to secure a championship every 4 years. So what that actually means is every single guy that's come through here and played 4 years of baseball is walking out with a ring.
Wow. Yeah.
Hopefully that's something we can continue. So with that cycle, it kind of worked out where we're going to welcome back our first home game, home game of the season after spring break is against Lemoyne. We're going to welcome back our first championship team, which was the NAIA World Series team in 2006. And then for the next 4 weekends, we'll welcome back our 2010 WIVIAC championship team. The following weekend will be our 2014 NCAA Division II World Series team. And the weekend after that, we're going to combine the 2017 and 2018 PSAC champs. They'll all be back here. And then the final recognition will be our 2021 World Series team. A great opportunity to bring the alumni back, but also recognize the history and the championships that all those guys have built here on the Hill.
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. And, you know, you talk about bringing them back, and I know there are guys that live outside the area that maybe can't get back as much as they'd like to, but there are a lot of alumni at the games regardless if they're being recognized or not. So it's pretty cool, again, to see that, you know, 20 years, not nearly as long as many PSAC schools for baseball program, but, you know, I'd stack Seton Hill's alumni up against anybody with how engaged that they are.
Yeah, that's what makes me, you know, so proud is that they're all still connected to the program. You mentioned there's a lot of guys that come back every weekend to watch the games. We see guys on the road when we play road games, seeing some support.
We know there's guys out there watching Westmoreland sports broadcasts as well. So
no doubt. I still get those text messages like, hey, man, what's going on? How can you guys lose to that team? Which I like.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
That means they're engaged and they're still holding us accountable. So
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun this year, and we'll continue to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of Seton Hill baseball as we go forward throughout the season. But let's talk about this year's team. Well, before we do that, we'll go back to last year, Maz. Seton Hill finished a unique season, I guess you could say. 33-19-1, very good record. Finished, though, in 6th place in the PSAC West. Did earn an at-large bid to the regional and came 3 outs away from hosting a super regional, but unfortunately lost to Westchester in extra innings. I guess it wasn't a, routine year for you guys. Maz, it was a little different. You missed the PSAC tournament for the first time, but you came that close to hosting a super regional. So, again, I always talk about the crazy stories of this baseball program. Like, no matter how it goes, I feel like at the end you're always there in some way, and that's kind of what happened last year.
Yeah,
right?
we took a different path to position ourselves, like you said, to really like 3 outs away from hosting a super regional. It was definitely a weird year. You mentioned we had gotten to the NCAA tournament without qualifying for the PSAC conference tournament. From my experience and talking to some people, that's only the 3rd time that's ever happened. Back in 2013, Shippensburg, as we want to forget.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but we'll gloss over that one.
Yeah, and Millersville had done it too. So, but to finish in 6th place, there was certainly some disappointment. I really think that the PSAC West was the toughest it's ever been last year. You know, Mercyhurst and Slippery Rock had some older players, as did Cal, and that contributed to the quality of the league. And we had graduated a big senior class the previous year. So we weren't necessarily a young team last year, but I would say we may be inexperienced. And I think we saw that come through a little bit. But at the end of the day, when you look up the standings, we had the most wins in the PSAC West, even after not making the conference tournament. And I think that speaks to the quality of non-conference schedule we played. You were down in Florida with us, and that was a really tough week for us. But in the end, I think it made us a better team, and it certainly positioned us to get into the postseason. We had some good individual accomplishments. Obviously, Jack Oberdorf and Nash Bryan put together some fantastic seasons individually last year. But I'd be lying if I said it's behind us. I think our guys came back this year with a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth, and I think it's motivated them to certainly have a better finish and a better showing in our conference this year.
Well, and you talk about that motivation, and even before we get into this year, to miss the PSAC tournament and then find out that you guys got an at-large bid, it seemed like you guys were highly motivated then. Let's make a run, because Slippery Rock swept you in the regular season. You beat them in the first game of the Atlantic Regional. Then you beat Westchester by, it was a lot of runs. Unfortunately, I know that the next game didn't go your way. You lost by 1, and then you lost in extra innings. But to make a run the way that you did, and to see guys like an Omar Ward, who racked up so many RBIs, and then Neil McDermott, who had a great season. I'll talk about Neil in a minute, but you had to be proud of the way you guys battled, knowing that you had maybe second life there. Incredibly
proud. We preach and preach and preach about controlling our responses, right? Like on and off the baseball field, our guys understand that, there'll be things that happen to them in their lives, and the biggest choice that they can make is how they respond to that. And our response to maybe a subpar regular season was to come out and give it everything we had. And we came close. And you're right. I'm really proud of what we did with the opportunity that we had earned at the end of the year. We may have had an advantage that we were well rested too. Although Westchester, I think, lost early in the PSAC tournament, but that time off, I think, was some time for us to kind of rest, recover, and refocus. And I think it did us some good heading into that regional.
Well, before we talk about some of the individual performances from last year, I talked about this on many broadcasts, and you mentioned the strength of schedule you guys had last year that allowed you to get that at-large bid. But there were some in the Twitter sphere that thought politics had something to do with you guys getting in, but it's all based on numbers, is it not?
It is, yeah. And we've known that. We're traditionally position ourselves to play late into the season, into the NCAA tournament. We knew what it took to do that. We earned our way there, regardless of what some people may say or think. So
yeah, no doubt about it. So every game does matter. You talk about strength of schedule. We go to Florida. I mentioned on those broadcasts that, hey, this is a non-conference game. Does it have as much meaning as playing a Mercyhurst or a Cal or a Slippery Rock? No, but it does have meaning, and it helps strengthen your case of getting into the Atlantic Regional. And again, it's based on numbers, not opinion. So, what are some of the individual standouts that really pop out to you last year, Maz? I mean, if I could choose one, Neil McDermott, my gosh, 349 batting average last year, became an all-conference player, his only year as a position player. You talked about it at the banquet, just what a great story he was after coming on as a pitcher. He had great stuff, just couldn't find the strike zone consistently enough. Was a great teammate, though, and said, I'm willing to move to the outfield, and he became an all-conference outfielder.
Yeah, on a personal level, I was just so happy for Neil to see him put such an exclamation point on, a really up-and-down career. If you hadn't known the story to his career and you came and watched him play last year, you'd be like, man, this kid must have been a really solid player, for 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
But it was his first year. He was so impactful, especially down the stretch. I mean, he got better and better. I think he actually, in the postseason, raised his batting average like 30 points, which is hard to do that late in the year. And he was certainly a very bright spot. The left side of our infield was so fun to watch. Owen Sable and Jack Oberdorf. They made 10 errors combined on the season in like 54 games, which is unbelievable. It's exciting to know that they're back. And Nash Bryan had he kind of faltered a little bit down the stretch, I think, because we used him so much.
Sure,
we probably wore him out a little bit, but that's how good he was. I was excited to see him have the opportunity to move on and keep pitching this year at Pitt, but not just a great season from him, but a great career here at Seton Hill. One of the best closers to ever do it. There was some other, Max Mandler did a really good job as a true freshman, getting a chance to play. Braden Durham made an impact for us in his first season. Somebody like Brandon Bergert, I mean, a guy who just kept getting better and better and rose up our pitching staff and ended up being our number one starter in the NCAA tournament. Probably would not have predicted that at the beginning of the year. So there was a lot of good things that happened last year that certainly, I think, carry over and make us very excited about this season.
And, of course, we have to talk about another outstanding catch made by another great outfielder in Neil McDermott last year. Made number one on ESPN SportsCenter. And I probably told this story before, but I'll never forget, he makes the catch, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, this has a chance. So as soon as I get home, I clip it. What you have to do is you have to tweet it out, hashtag SCTop10, try to get everyone you can think of to retweet it. And you also, it's good to send it to the ESPN assignment desk, just so they know that it's there. You don't know if they're looking, and they don't tell you if it's going to be on or not. So it was like, I don't know, 1:50 in the morning. For those that know me, I stay up late. And I don't watch much. Do you watch much SportsCenter anymore? Because like when we were growing up, it was all highlights, or at least mostly, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, and those guys. And now it's not. Now it's mostly junk, in my opinion. But when you want to watch highlights, you don't really get that. But so I don't watch it a whole lot. But I do remember that the last 10 minutes is the top plays, and I saw it was 150. I'm like, I gotta jump on and check it out. And so top plays come on. They're showing number 10, number 9, and I'm like, Neil's catch was better than this one. It was better than this lacrosse goal, this dunk, And it's getting down to 5 and 4, and I'm like, man, he didn't make it. This is, And as soon as I see number 1, and the first thing I see, I think, is Caden Wood's back in our broadcast, I started screaming. My pregnant wife's upstairs, sleeping, having to work at 4 a.m., and I'm just like, let's go, It was so cool, and I think I actually messaged Neil, too, and I think he was awake, or someone woke him up. It's just really cool to see, you feel so great for him. You get to see the broadcast on there, the baseball program gets recognized like that, and that was just a cool moment.
Well, I'm not going to lie, Dan. We show that clip, and both of Orndorff's,
yeah.
We show all 3 of those clips to recruits because it's awesome. Like we had 3 appearances on SportsCenter. What's that cost in advertising dollars, right? Right. And we tell them that the reason we were on SportsCenter was because we have these unbelievable high-quality broadcasts. Because of Westmoreland Sports,
thank you.
We never would have captured those moments for those kids who dream about being on SportsCenter. So So we tell every recruit if they come here, they'll be on SportsCenter.
There you go. It has to happen. It has to happen.
Right.
So before we talk about this year, one final question about last year, Matt. Just your senior class. I know we've touched on guys like Nash, but even other Isaiah DeAndreth was such a great player for you for 4 years. Brandon Klein was a solid player in the outfield. Tanner Fralick, I know he was injured a lot, but just a great kid to have on the team, and he produced when he needed to. And Omar Ward, who was a fan favorite and a team favorite, and again, man, did he come through in the clutch last year in the playoffs. So what was the senior class? What does that mean to this program?
Well, I have a special admiration for that class because of what they went through. So you rewind to, I believe, what was their freshman year in 2019. We had a decent team that year, but that's one of the only year in the last 12 that we didn't make the NCAA tournament. And if you remember, we made a pretty good run in the PSAC tournament, only to have the season end with a rainout.
Yeah.
So we actually never lost. We never got knocked out of the PSAC tournament that year. We never finished the tournament. So that was a tough pill to swallow, right? If we beat Westchester, we get to the championship, and it was like, well, no, tournament's over. We didn't deserve it. We didn't earn it, whatever. But that's a tough way to end their freshman year. 2020 comes around, and COVID hits, and the passing of McLean. And then they're part of that group that responds and comes back with arguably the best season in Seton Hill history in 21 and goes to the World Series. And then as seniors, they don't make the conference tournament, yet they come within one game of hosting a super regional. So they experienced it all. I mean, all of it during, arguably one of the most challenging times ever, for young people during COVID. So they navigated some fantastic times and some really difficult times. And I'm so proud that they all walked out with their degrees, many of them now with master's degrees or pursuing master's degrees. So it was a special group that contributed in many different ways as backup players, eventually as starting players. Neil is an example of a guy who changed positions. Omar played multiple positions. Isaiah was probably the rock of that class, the guy who contributed the most. So it's a special group that, again, I have incredible admiration for how they persevered and succeeded through their 4 years here on Seton Hill.
Yeah, Zay, certainly never forget the go-ahead single that he hit in the first World Series game a couple of years ago, late in the game. That's certainly something I'll remember from him. And, of course, everyone yelling meat all the time. I don't know. I guess that's not going to continue until he comes back. Well, let's talk about this season, Maz, the group you have coming back. And before we kind of break down the positions and everything, as a collective, what has kind of stood out about this year's group so far, through fall and now the preseason?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. They're motivated. We do still have a good chunk of guys that, played in the World Series in 2021 and then kind of took a real big step backwards during the regular season last year. So I see a very intentional commitment to get back to that level and kind of right the ship a little bit from last year. And I think that motivation has really spread across the team. It's created some great leadership. And ultimately, I hope it matters, but we have some fantastic team chemistry. Mm-hmm. And when I say team chemistry, I don't mean just like a bunch of guys that give high fives. I mean guys that truly love each other and truly care about each other. That combined with some pretty good talent and some pretty good depth, I'm anxious. I'm really anxious and excited to see the story that this team's going to write this year.
And I don't want to put any pressure on them, but after 2013, you mentioned 2013, Shippensburg didn't make the PSAC tournament. They get into the regional and they knock you guys out. And it was a heartbreaking loss. And I know one that, the one everyone remembers those ones that'll sting for a long time, and I know that one still does. But that next year's team was highly motivated, and you guys got to where you wanted to get to. I guess maybe it's too early to ask if there's any similarities between the teams, but in terms of motivation, you kind of see some similarities?
I do because of the leadership, because of the guys that I think look back and maybe have a little bit of regrets from last year, and they have the motivation and the power and the talent to act on it this year. I hope in that way history repeats itself, but you can use last year as motivation, but at the end of the day, you still have to go out and play the game play the game well and get those W's this year.
No doubt about it. Well, let's break down this year's team, and you've already mentioned them a few times. You have to start with the left side of that infield. Jack Oberdorf, Owen Sable, one of the best in the region, maybe the country. Oberdorf hit .357 last year, 11 home runs, 41 RBIs. He finished the season on an 8-game hitting streak. Sable batted .298, scored 38 runs, had 15 stolen bases, and as Maz mentioned earlier, only 10 errors combined between those guys. And don't forget how much they play. Wow, what a season for them last year. And I know you're looking for, I don't know, maybe bigger and better this year, which is pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I think Owen would admit this. He didn't have a great offensive season last year. He set the bar pretty high. You know, in 2021, he hit leadoff for us, was on base a ton, stole bases, drove runs in, walked a lot. So a little bit of a down year offensively. And why I'm so proud of him is he never let that or his offensive struggles affect how he played defense. And he's been great. He continues to work as hard as anybody on our team. I think it's going to translate to a great offensive season for him. And you just come to expect him to make every routine play and also every great play. So both him and Jack have really set a tone for just the leadership of our team, and they've been great guiding a lot of our younger players. And they're pretty locked in right now. They really are. I'm excited to see them play.
Who do you have behind those guys getting reps? And knowing that they're two seniors that are probably going to play a lot. I mean, is it challenging to develop other guys behind them, knowing in the future that you're going to have to turn the baseball over to some new faces? Or is that something you're not even thinking a whole lot about because it's about this year?
No, you're always thinking about who's next and who's behind those guys, but developing players behind Jack Oberdorf and Owen Sable is easy because they have such a great role model in front of them, and not only being great players, but they're great teachers too. They embrace that leadership role, and I've heard this come out of their mouth a number of times. They want to leave Seton Hill baseball better than they found it, and they feel obligated to make sure the guys that are going to take their place when they're gone that are ready. So behind them, we're not real deep in the infield. Christian Zilli, Brady Bedway, Aiden Steinbugle, and Joe Fedor are guys that we've moved around the infield, third base, shortstop, second base. And then Max Mandler will probably come off of first base where he played mostly last year and play a lot of second base. There's one other guy, Cam Colwell, who's a really versatile athlete that can catch and play the infield for us. Like you said, Sable and Oberdorf are going to be playing every game, but we try to prepare and communicate with those other infielders. You're an injury away. You got to come in every day as if you're going to take that guy's spot. So that's probably the extent of our infield. We're not super deep around the horn.
Well, you mentioned Max Mandler penciled in right now at second base, played both second and first last year. Certainly showed his versatility as a freshman. Only made 6 errors in the field all season, just 1 in his last 32 games. Batted .245, got the 6th most amount of at-bats on the team. So, as a freshman, you're going to see guys kind of go up and down in terms of offense, but his defense certainly wasn't lacking all year, Maz. So what do you kind of expect from Max, and do you believe pulling him off of first base, kind of putting him in a more natural position for him at second, do you think that'll help him blossom a little bit?
I think so. I don't even know if he has a natural position. He's almost – in high school he played third. He also played a little bit of center field. We put him at first where he's never played, and he adjusted pretty well there. Right. I don't even know what his natural position is, but I think based on our needs, second base is where we need him, and that suits him pretty well. But it'll just be fun to see his progression. And it's little things like, can he draw more walks? Can he steal more bases? Things that he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable and confident doing. He's a strong, athletic guy. So, I think over the next 3 years, you'll probably start to see some power numbers coming from him as well.
Yeah, he kind of showcased that a little bit in Florida last year, if you remember, kind of splashed onto the scene.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting. And, of course, his brother Owen also committed to Seton Hill. Owen Mandler will be a Griffin next year. So that's pretty cool to see. You're playing at first base. I know Eli Snyder, you were very high on him when he was, recruited, brought in here. And I know he's going to get a shot as a junior now. And you have some new faces there too, right?
Yeah, I think the time has come for Eli to kind of step up and contribute at first base. We brought in a great transfer, Logan Vittmeyer, who's primarily a catcher, but we expect him to probably fill a little bit of time at first base as well. He's a great middle of the order hitter, so trying to find another spot besides catching for him. And then behind those two main guys, Matt Frazetta is a sophomore. It's been working out primarily at first base. We have a couple freshmen that are sort of like outfield first baseman, Colin Marinpetro and Colin R. So we have some depth over there at first base, but I think you'll see most of the action going to the older guys, Vittmeyer and Snyder.
You mentioned the catching position. Vinny Rauso has made the trek back from the Savannah Bananas. I'm glad he survived mostly, right? I mean, he's as normal as Vinny can be, right?
That was a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. You can YouTube that or Google that if you want to see him dancing and everything.
Riding dirty.
Yeah. Had such a fine career at Seton Hill since transferring in from Alderson Broadus. I know last year he wasn't completely healthy, Maz. So kind of how's he feeling coming into this year, and what do you expect from him behind the plate?
Well, he's not completely healthy this year, but you wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know it.
No,
yeah,
he's just he's about as tough as they come. And, you know, we're going to expect the same thing from Vinny that we've always expected, and what he's always done is be a great contact hitter, great situational hitter, battles at the plate, commands the pitching staff well, provides some leadership. You know, he'll catch a lot, but we also have some other good options where we can use Vinny at DH, give him a game off, things like that. Braden Durham is obviously back. He caught for us and probably will catch again a little bit. And then having the versatility of Vittmeyer to be DH, first base catcher. So we're excited about having three catchers that at least two of them can play other positions. It gives us a lot of options offensively and defensively.
And, of course, Zach Ramich also saw some time back there too. So, I mean, to have a guy that, you know, maybe isn't going to get a ton of time, but you never know about injuries, you know, you can count on him, right?
That's an understatement. Like, can count on Zach Ramich. He's been a rock ever since he's come in here. He's a guy that didn't start a whole lot of games for us, but would finish a lot of games because of his defensive abilities. But he's kind of like our ace in the hole. We know we can stick him in here and behind the plate at any time. He's going to do a fantastic job.
Yeah, every team I feel like needs a guy like that. You know, the catching position is so important that you know if something goes wrong, he's there, you know, to plug him in. So that's certainly good. Let's move to the outfield, Maz, where things, you know, maybe will be a little more interesting, I guess. Not necessarily solidified. You mentioned Braden Durham, who can catch and also play in the outfield. Transferred in last year, had a really good season, hit .346 with 34 runs scored, showcased some really good speed, 13 stolen bases. He finished the game on a 9-game hitting streak. He can also catch, as I mentioned. Drew Garth had a terrific season, a terrific start to his freshman year last year. Struggled some, but obviously has a lot of potential. Nate Durinsky also got off to a really nice start last year, got hit with some injuries. Your thoughts on those guys and, you know, some of the new faces that you're kind of excited about out there?
Yeah, we have a lot of second-year outfielders and a couple of guys that are first year with us that are really exciting. Really good athletes. We have a ton of athleticism out there. I can't, and we've talked to the guys about, you know, their roles on the team in the outfield, and I see like 7-8 guys, you know, being able to contribute for us, and we kind of want them to just work together to get 3 jobs done every day, and might be a different guy. And they've really embraced that in practice. Like, they just work so hard together. They push each other. They make each other better.
I feel like you've had past years like that too, where guys are more working together as opposed to maybe 3 starters every game or something.
And
like that.
Even a couple of years ago when we had Carl Turner and Kenise Ejo and Derek and Fedor and Pellis, we had all those outfielders that, you know, just found ways to contribute and complement each other. And I think we have a similar group this year. Drew Garth is, you know, he started off last year as a freshman. You're like, holy smokes. And, you know, he kind of hit that freshman wall a little bit. And I think he had a great season because he both had success and failure, right? And he's able to learn from both. He's so much more mature now. I feel like he swung the bat from the fall until now as good as anybody on our team, and made a very strong case to be in the lineup every day for us. And then, Durham will probably play a little bit of a left field when he's not catching. And honestly, we have a stable of guys right behind them. A lot of guys vying for that center field job. The second-year guys that I mentioned, Nate Durinsky, Blake Barker, Garth is obviously a second-year player, Dowie, Noah Sweeney's second year with us. All guys that can run well, good arms, cover a lot of ground, defend. I think it'll come down to who's swinging the hottest bat. And a couple first-year guys, Aiden Shepard, Norwin guy transferred over from a school up north, and
in Erie, right?
Yeah, I think it's in Erie. Yeah. So Aiden's gonna contribute. I'm not sure, what outfield position, but he'll be in the mix for us. Jack Whalen, exciting freshman, another Norwin guy. Jack brings some sort of Derek Orndorff-ish skills out there, covers some ground, just goes and gets it, sacrifices his body.
Hashtag SC top 10 maybe this year.
He might be the guy.
I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid.
He might be the guy. So I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody in the outfield. Mike Gregos is a guy. He's coming off an injury, a pretty good right-handed bat. He's got some versatility. He can play outfield and infield for us. So, there's a lot of candidates. And I think Garth will play quite a bit. He'll hit for us, and a lot of mixing and matching the rest of the pieces out there. I think there's not going to be a whole lot of balls falling in the outfield for us this year. I'm excited about the athleticism of that group.
Well, we'll talk about Florida later on, and obviously a tough schedule, but those are the reasons, I'm sure, and we talk so many times, that you're excited to get down there because you guys play so many games that you can get looks at so many different guys. And as we've talked about many times, the way somebody plays in Florida, they may earn starts in once conference play comes around, right?
Yeah, certainly. And when you go down there and play the teams that we're playing, like, you're going to know right away, like, whether a guy can hit or not. We'll see such good pitching, but that's the time to do it when you're playing every day and it's 80, 90 degrees. It's good to have the ability to rotate your lineup.
Well, we haven't talked pitching yet, so why don't we do that, Maz, as we continue on the season preview show. I guess we can begin with the starters. Kevin Voppel returns to really anchor the staff, went 4-2 with a 4.42 ERA last year, 60 strikeouts in 55 innings. And, I know that maybe he had kind of an up and down year, I guess, but there were some other guys that really stepped up. But I know Kevin's looking forward to having a huge season this year.
Yeah, he'll be our number one guy. He's a different dude than he was 6-12 months ago. He went away this summer, trained at an elite place.
He go to Russia like Rocky or something.
yeah, he's running mountains.
Yeah.
But no, if you saw him, you'd think so. He's in great shape right now.
That's good.
He's throwing the baseball really well, providing great leadership. His stuff has improved quite a bit. He wants the baseball. I think he's going to thrive in that number one spot for us. And this coming weekend, our opening weekend, Brandon Bergert will start game 2. I feel like he's picking up right where he left off. Last year, he made that steady climb to the top of our rotation, and he's pitching like he should be there again this year. Aiden Layton will start game 3. He's a guy that's really experienced a lot in his 2 seasons, pitched out of the bullpen and started. Right now we have him slated to start, but he has that versatility. We are, excited to welcome back 2 very impactful pitchers that were on the shelf last year. Well, Andino Vecchiola pitched for us and arguably pitched better than anybody on our staff until an arm injury set him down. He's back. He's healthy, and he looks fantastic. And then John McCullough coming off of Tommy John surgery. John started facing live hitters about 3 weeks ago, and he's ready to go, and he'll get the baseball out of the bullpen this first week down in Cary. Some other guys that will have starter ability that might start some games for us, Mike Marinchak and Jared Dowie. Both of those guys have some experience from last year and threw some significant innings for us. Blake Barker, again, can play the outfield, but we kind of threw him in the fire as a freshman, really our only left-handed bullpen arm last year, and he did a great job. He's an athlete and a competitor, and I think we'll use him in a similar role out of the bullpen again this year. We've got a great dude on the back end, Caden Wood.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yep. Another guy who has shown a lot of versatility. We kind of, we had him penciled in to be that reliever in front of Nash last year, and halfway through the season we said, okay, instead of 1 inning today, we need 5 or 6 out of you, and he did it. And then this summer, he had a great summer. He was an all-star in the Coastal Plains League as a closer. I think he had 12 saves or something like that. Yeah. So we talked to Caden, and he's good moving back to the bullpen. Losing Nash, that's almost like a guaranteed win on the back end.
Yeah.
Not that Caden is, but he certainly gives us a chance to lock up some games in the 7th and 9th inning. So we're going to put him in that role. Another guy that we extended last year, Ian Korn. Mm-hmm. He had a little bit of an up and down season, but he showed great promise. His stuff was great. He threw in some big moments, both relief and I think may have started a game or two. And he'll probably have a similar role, a guy that we can throw for an extended period of time. We've stretched him out as a starter. I think Wetzler and Laird are 2 seniors for us that will get most of their action out of the bullpen. Guys that have contributed a little bit. Wetzler battled an arm injury. Jack had an arm injury a couple of years ago. But I'm excited to see where those guys fit in. They have the Wetzler's more suited as a reliever with a low slot guy, and Jack's got 3-4 pitch guy that's a different look than some of our other guys. Great off speed. So he's more of a situational guy for us, either as a starter or as a reliever. So I'm going on and on here about all these pitchers.
Well, and you haven't talked about any new faces yet, which goes to show how many veterans you have.
Yeah.
But talking to some guys here and there, they said that there are some new guys that are also throwing the ball pretty well too. So
yeah, it's hard when you have all these guys back. It's hard to predict kind of what some of the innings are going to look like from the new guys. One of the freshmen who's really kind of asserted himself, and he'll probably pitch a good bit early in the season here, is Derek Fravel. A freshman, a reliever, a mid to high 80s guy with a good breaking ball. He's been lights out. He's been as good as any of our relievers. We're excited to see him progress this year too. I think most of our other freshmen, Evan Rossi, Jack Pletcher, Brandon Leocarius, those are guys that are probably going to eat up all of those JV innings. It's going to be hard to find some innings for some of our varsity guys.
Will you be having a JV schedule, Maz, this year, a few games?
We will.
Other than Florida. Will you have any during the regular season?
Yeah, we'll have a few.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a few. Similar to Laird and Wetzler, Tyler Danku is back in that same class.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys plus Kevin Voppel, all 4, I guess, 4th-year players, seniors. But it's gonna be hard to find innings for all these guys, and I wish we played 9-inning games on the weekends.
Yeah,
you probably don't because you're gonna announce them. But
sometimes it depends. Well, now that we have a press box, it's okay. But back a few years ago when it was 20 degrees outside, I probably wasn't really for it. But now I don't mind it as much. You mentioned Voppel being your ace right now and how well he's doing. Does it give you guys an advantage to have your ace be a left-handed pitcher to kind of set the tone there, and then to come back with a right-handed starter in game 2? I mean, does that play much of a factor, you think?
I think most baseball people think it does, but I don't know how to prove that.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those intangible things.
We do that too. We're like, well, if we're starting a righty, let's go the lefty out of the bullpen.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know how to quantify that.
Understood. I'm sure there's some kind of sabermetric that does. But so I ask you this every year. Who was a guy? I usually just say one, but who was a guy that really stood out to you? That maybe you knew Jack Oberdorf was going to do what he does in the fall and Sable and those guys, but maybe a guy that really splashed onto the scene and said, "Wow, this guy is really taking a step."
Wow.
I know. I stump you with this every year, I'm pretty sure. I probably should ask you this before we go on because you probably forget that we're going to talk about it. But I know it's tough to pick one, too, because I'm sure there's a few candidates candidates out there.
Well, I think a player that you'll be able to look back and has the potential to burst on the scene and you might have a couple wild moments, honestly, is Jack Whalen, just because of his athleticism, and he can make some plays that a lot of other guys can't. On the mound, honestly, like the progression of Brandon Berger, it's been exciting as well as to see. I thought Kevin Voppel's been a really good pitcher for us, but I think he's taken a big step from his junior to senior year. So, yeah, those two guys on the mound and Waylon with his athleticism I think they're exciting players for us.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the coaching staff. You have a new addition, Clay Martin, new pitching coach, previously coached at Eastern Illinois and also Westminster, played at WNJ. He replaces our man Tim Cronin, who did a really amazing job here at Seton Hill. Tim is now the pitching coach at a Division I school, Bryant University. Tell us a little bit about Clay, if you could, Coach, how he's been fitting in, and, of course, the great job that Tim did.
Yeah, I was extremely nervous and pretty stressed out this summer replacing Tim. He was an incredible, mentor to our players. Our program's so much better for him being here. He's added a ton of value. So a guy like that's difficult to replace, and I feel like we hit a home run with Clay. It's been a seamless transition for many reasons. Number one, his relationship with our pitchers. They really enjoy that he kind of gives them some freedom. It wasn't one of those situations where a new coach comes in, he wants to change everything. Clay's extremely mature in the way that he recognizes, hey, what's Seton Hill been doing well? Let's keep doing it, and where can I help make it better? I think him having local ties also made that transition really easy for him. He's in charge of the bulk of our recruiting, so he already knows the area. He's recruited as an assistant at Westminster. He's from Cannon Mac. So it checks so many boxes, right? Familiarity with the area and the program. He had a great career. He played in 2 World Series. And for somebody that young that's got Division I experience, played in a World Series, has recruited and been a pitching coach, I think we hit a home run there. Yeah. So he's been awesome. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. If Tim's watching this, he's probably riding his bike. I don't know. Can you watch? That's probably not a good idea to be on your phone while you're riding your bike, is it? Probably not.
He's taken a few spills. He probably doesn't want me to bring that up, but
we won't tell anyone. So the new addition, and of course Ty Sully is back, and I know how much he has meant. You talk about relationships with players, and I don't know that he's had any bad relationship with a player. I know how much the kids look up to him, and what he's done here at Seton Hill.
Yeah. He brings the energy every day. He's really taken our strength and conditioning program to a different level, and you see it
with other teams too on the hill.
Yeah.
Right? He's with women's lacrosse. He helps out, and so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, all their wins are because of
him, right?
His weight training. Yeah, no, but he's done an awesome job. It was really exciting to see him go and manage in the summer.
That too. Yeah,
last summer in Johnstown, and he'll be managing again this year. And for somebody that I coached as a player. And now I get to coach alongside him. It's been awesome to see him mature as a man and as a coach and have all these great experiences and then turn around every single day and make our players better. All of us are very fortunate to have him.
Did you have the opportunity to do that, Maz, when you were starting out, manage a team in the summer like a collegiate team?
I did.
You did?
I did.
What was that like for you?
It was a little bit different. It wasn't a collegiate team. It was like lack of a better term, a semi-pro team. And we had probably about 4 or 5 guys that had been released from pro ball.
Oh, wow.
It was almost similar to an independent team, and there was dudes older than me and way better than me that I was managing. So it was a little bit intimidating.
Yep.
But it was fun. Yeah, summer baseball is just the best. It's awesome.
It's awesome. I wish we could have something in Greensburg. Yeah. Maybe someday. Who knows? So a couple of more questions. You mentioned Joe Fedor, you mentioned Jack Whalen, even Owen Mandler. What's it mean to know that the younger brothers of some guys that you've coached also want to play for Seton Hill? Now, of course, the McCarthys set the tone for that with 4 of them. But, even Ty Sullivan and Brett and Davios. Am I pronouncing that right now? Daviot, yeah. That's it. Oh, my goodness. So long ago now. So Ertz as well, so those guys. What's it like to know that, they want to continue that tradition?
Well, I mean, you just named great families, right? I like to think that when we're recruiting kids, like we try to recruit their families as well or welcome their family into our family. So I guess the guys are having good experiences, right? And the younger brothers are here watching them play. and they have a desire to, come here and play and maybe be in their shoes someday. So it's pretty humbling. When you get a set of brothers, you're doing something right. I'm actually at the point in my career now where we're recruiting the children of my college friends. So it's not only is it we're recruiting brothers, we're like now I'm recruiting like my friend's kid.
Well, I'm waiting to get to the point where I start broadcasting like daughters and sons of others that I've broadcast. Like, I remember when your dad did this and that. I'm not there yet. Now I'm more older brothers and stuff, but I'm going to get there at some point. I mean, God willing. But
it's a different level.
It is. Yeah, it really is. Let's talk about the PSAC. How do you kind of see the PSAC stacking up this year? I know you mentioned a couple of times that the PSAC last year really felt that it was a lot like veteran, but there's so many good teams. IUP is getting back to doing some really good things, and I know Slippery Rock had a really good team last year, and Cal's always good, and Mercyhurst, and man, it's just a meat grinder. But how do you kind of see it this year?
On the west side, I think there's a lot of fifth-year guys that have graduated. You mentioned Slippery Rock and Mercyhurst, and even Gannon had a couple fifth-year, arguably two of the best pitchers in the league, and Judy and Sapp are gone. But I think a lot of the teams in the PSAC have really succeeded in the transfer portal. So they're replacing some seniors with some juniors and seniors instead of freshmen, and that's keeping the quality of the league up. But Mercyhurst brings back arguably the best pitching staff, at least in the West. They had older position players, but their pitching staff is all back. Gannon is a little bit different. They bring back like the majority of their hitters, got to replace a couple of arms. You mentioned IUP. They really turn things around. They have a lot of their guys back as well. And I'm not sure about Slippery Rock. They had a guy sign a pro contract. Their number one. I can't think of his name.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Yeah. Anyway, he was one of the best arms, and he was slated to come back this year. Thankfully, he signed a pro contract, and losing a big guy like that will make a difference for them. But they have enough back that they'll be competitive again. So Cal turned over a lot of. They had a lot of seniors last year, but they brought in. I think you'll see them play a lot of freshmen and sophomores this year. Very talented, so they project to be pretty solid the next couple of years. And then over in the East, I mean, Millersville, the PSAC champs, and they bring back a ton of guys. Westchester got to the World Series. I think they have some guys back. And East Stroudsburg's ranked in the top 20 in the country in most of the polls. So, man, it's not getting any easier. So I know, we were picked number one in the West. That's a tall task. Especially after finishing sixth. We've got a lot of climbing to do against, some pretty stiff competition this year.
Well, it goes to show the respect for you guys, though, to finish in sixth place and still be picked to win. I know it doesn't mean anything, but certainly a lot of respect there from the coaches. So, Maz, you guys are getting ready for some baseball this weekend. We're putting this preview together very quickly. So by the time people watch this, you may have played already. But you play Findlay, a 3-game series this weekend. Where is it at again? I can't remember where it's at.
It's at this place. We're going to start the season and finish the season in the same place.
Cary, North Carolina. That's where it is. That is really cool. I think it's the first time, right, you guys have ever played in Cary. Well, I should say played in Cary during the regular season. But, yeah, I know guys are – I talked to Eli Snyder at the softball game the other day, and he said this is where we're starting, this is where we're finishing, this is our goal. So
that's the plan.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat. But what kind of came together? What made you decide to to head to Cary to open the season?
Well, that area is usually where we try to open up the season, South Carolina, North Carolina. But trying to play schools from those areas, they're all in conference play right now.
Oh, wow.
All those leagues, Peach Belt, Conference Carolinas, the SAC. So my intentions were to go to that area, find a school that had needed an opponent, and it wasn't working out. So I figured, Findlay is not in our region, but it would count, as a regional opponent. It just worked out. We found somebody that was willing to go down and play in Cary.
And I don't know that you've ever played Findlay before.
We've not. First time.
I was going to say I haven't looked at the history or anything. So, yeah that'll be fun. Seton Hill will play a 3-game series with Findlay. Weather look okay? I haven't looked.
Yeah.
They look all right?
Yeah, we'll be good. 50
good.
and 60.
That's good. And then the Griffins are actually scheduled to host Walsh in a 3-game series the following weekend. That is the weekend of February 24th. And then it's off to Florida. Wow. Always a fun trip, but you guys have some really good opponents again this year. You don't shy away from it. Minnesota State, Mankato, Tampa, Ashland, Florida Southern, just to name a couple there. Just another meat grinder in Florida.
Well, I think we're good too. So hopefully they're saying, "Oh man, we got to play Seton Hill this year."
Again. Yeah, I hope so. So, what kind of went into the Florida schedule? I know that sometimes you get you don't know who you're going to play necessarily when you get down there, but you did line up games against Tampa and Florida Southern too, right? Because we're playing at Florida Southern.
Yeah, I don't like playing all Florida schools while we're down there, but just a couple, just because. You're now the visiting team. You get to take on field BP. It's a little bit different setup than playing actually in the rust mat where it's, BP in the cages before. And you're playing on a little bit better fields. The Tampa got turf this year.
Yeah,
I saw that. Their stadium.
That's interesting.
That's always a great experience. We
know
the competition is extremely tough, but it's a great atmosphere. I mean, you're going down there to play the best Division II school ever to do it.
And then you get to play baseball. JV under the lights. The guys get up for that too.
Yeah,
It's much nicer with a win in that first game, though. Guys get a little more up, I feel like.
Yeah, certainly makes it better.
Hopefully that can happen. So, so we talked about the schedule. Any rule changes this year that you know of, like even in in the PSAC or just the NCAA baseball, that's going to change anything?
Yeah, we actually just reviewed all that with our players today. I guess it's more of an enforcement of the rule, the 20-second pitch clock. So basically it's 20 seconds between pitches, and they're going to be pretty strict about it and penalizing batters with a strike and pitchers with a ball. 120 seconds between innings, which usually isn't an issue, but that 20 seconds between pitches is going to eliminate a lot of pickoff plays, a lot of batters stepping out, calling time. It's going to really speed up the relaying of signs to the catcher, to the batter. Will fans notice a difference? Maybe. There won't be as many of those stall tactics involved, right? But will it save us like 3 minutes on the back end? Hopefully. I guess that's what the NCAA is going for.
So who keeps the time for that then?
Well, the field umpire keeps some type of timing device.
Yeah.
But I believe in 2025, so two years from now, we have to have a pitch clock installed at the ballpark, similar to like a shot clock where it's visible. So
that's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Is that going all the way down to the Division III level? Do you know?
It will. Okay. Yeah. I believe Division I is now, and then Division II comes in 25, and then I think Division III is the year after. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. In terms of pickoff plays, I mean, are you allowed only so many, or how does that?
You can only step off the rubber and not throw to a base one time.
Okay.
So.
But you're allowed to throw as many times to a base, but you're not allowed to continually step off and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So Major League Baseball is doing, widening the bases and banning the shift and all that stuff. I guess to add more offense, but I guess the NCAA decided that people got things to do and they don't want to watch baseball that long, so let's speed it up.
I guess. I don't know. At the Major League level, I'm fine with certain things, but I don't know. I don't know if we need it down at the NCAA level. But that's just me. Anyway, we could probably talk about rule changes for a long time. Hey, good luck, man. I cannot wait. 20th year for Griffins baseball. Hopefully this will be the best year yet. I know that's what you guys plan on every year.
Will Landon be at our games this year?
Oh, my God. He was already at a softball game. So he's going to be at baseball games this year. Yes, little Landon. Maybe we can throw one of these hats on him. Now, his head is almost as big as mine already, so you might need a different hat. But this will probably fit him already.
We'll size him up.
So, yeah. Maz, thank you so much, man. I can't wait to get this season going. Don't forget you can watch all of the Griffins home games, at least the majority of them, on the Westmoreland Sports Network, westmorelandsports.com. We'll be going down to Florida again with Seton Hill baseball. Hopefully the video will work for every game. We can't promise that going on the road, but last year we were pretty successful getting the video to work really for the majority of the games last year, so you can tune in and watch all of the games on WSN. And
might have a special color commentator in Florida.
Yes. For those of you that live in the Pittsburgh area, Bubba is supposed to join us.
Rumor has it.
Yeah, we'll see if that. We're in negotiations with Bubba. We'll see. Bubba the Bulldog. We'll see if that happens. Anyway, this was great, and looking forward to the 20th year, man.
Dan, thank you for everything that you do. We mentioned our alumni earlier. They'll be tuned in to every game, and like I said, without Westmoreland sports, the message in the last 20 years of Seton Hill baseball would be completely different. So thank you for everything that you do for us.
Thanks, buddy. We love being there every single weekend and the playoffs as well. That is Coach Mark Marizaldi. I'm Dan Flickinger. You've been watching the 2023 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. I would imagine they'll have video or at least live stats going on when you guys play Finley. Well, I guess at Cary they may not have video.
Yeah, no live stats, but there will be a live stream.
Oh, okay, so I was the opposite. There will be video, no live stats. All right, there you go. That's how you can check out the Griffins games this weekend. We'll see what's going on for Walsh, not sure quite yet. And then, of course, we will be with the Griffins in Florida, no doubt about that. So once again, for Coach Maz, I'm Dan Flickinger. Thank you so much for watching the Season Preview Show. Go Griffs.